From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, everyone else is making moves. So why is Florida State waiting and seeing? Is there an upside? Folks clamoring for more hard-hitting questions being thrown at Mike. And it's the Mailbag show. And you know what's generating discussion sparked by Cummins? Coaching, hiring plans, and timelines. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Shake it and take it. And you know what? While you're there, just go ahead and buy yourself one and get one for free. That's right, Vitamin Energy hooking it up with the promo code warchantbogo, Warchant B-O-G-O. Buy one, get one free. Buy five, get five free. You know how it works, everybody. Do you know how Vitamin Energy works, though? It's synergistically formulated with 260 milligrams of all-natural caffeine, slow natural absorption throughout the day to give you that 7 hours of energy, and then vitamins and nutrients that nourish the body and the mind. Helps your focus, helps your mood, immune response, the pump in the gym. You'll find something you like. Go to vitaminenergy.com, promo code warchantbogo, buy one, get one free. Shake it and take it. VitaminEnergy.com, warchant.com, ultimate Seminole sports source. Still $1 American for a week and a year subscription to The Athletic. Could this be the week? Things change. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. At least maybe a dub, homecoming, Heritage Weekend dub. That would certainly be nice. Getting to read all the stuff over at warchant.com, penned by Corey Clark, is also very nice. So won't you go check that out? Here he is now, though, everybody. Corey Clark. Corey, how are you, man? Good seeing you on Monday, by the way.
Yeah, it was good seeing you. How are you doing? You doing all right?
Yeah, man, way to power through. When you said you were driving back from Kentucky, I guess I should have done the math in my head and realized you meant 9 hours, meant you were going all the way to Tallahassee. But I figured you're going to take a respite in Atlanta in the A, but nope.
No. Stephanie thought she had a meeting at 8:30 in the morning on Monday that we had to be back in Tallahassee for, so we drove 11 hours, got in whenever, 10:30 at night, and then she realized, no, that's Tuesday, the meeting that we drove 11. But it's fine. We had to be back anyway. It's good to be back home. Got a new house. We want to enjoy it, so I'm not complaining. It was just it's a tough ride.
It's a
tough drive, I should say.
I feel like Corey Clark would have gotten yelled at if he was the one that was like, we got to be back Monday, and then when we arrived back, it was like, oops, I meant Tuesday.
I would have heard about it, but it would have been like a 9-second burst of her being upset, and then she would have been fine with it.
Okay. All right, good stuff.
Yeah.
Being able to see Corey on Monday meant that we were hanging out together at the Mike Norvell weekly press conference. I don't know, not a lot to bring forth from that press conference. A couple of questions about, how are things going with the team? How are things going in recruiting? Some big picture questions. I guess injury-wise, sounds like Javen Boggs will be out this week. Tommy, I guess we'll find out probably on the injury report, but we'll get Mike on Wednesday. We can ask him a little bit of a follow-up there, but I don't know, really any other headline news to share with the folks listening after speaking to Mike on Monday, in your opinion, Corey?
No, it just reminds you how crazy this next 4 or 5 weeks, if he's the head coach for all 4 or 5 weeks, is going to be, because he's talking about recruiting and what he's hearing from high school coaches, what players or parents might be asking him, and he's talking as if he's going to be the head coach. Like, why go out on the road recruiting if you're not going to be here next year? So he's still playing the part, and he might really think he's going to be the head coach next year, and for all we know, he will be. It's just we would all be stunned by that development at this juncture, and I don't know. It's just hard, especially on the heels of what happened Sunday night in Baton Rouge. And then, you have a head coach that has a similar buyout who's had less success than that coach in Baton Rouge, although he beat him twice.
Higher highs, but nowhere near the lower lows. I mean, I think Kelly won 10 games in his first 2 seasons, 9 or 8 last year, and then he had 5.
Yeah,
they were ranked like 72 hours ago. Now he's fired,
Yeah, I mean, I think they won his first 3 seasons there. They won 10 games, 9 games.
Yeah.
I mean, and then this year they've won 5. So, no, he's 34-14 at LSU. That's not bad. And I do think, to get to an overall bigger picture element, I'm sure we'll address this as the show goes on. At some point these schools are going to realize you've got to kind of realize what you're dealing with. And it was awesome that I brought up yesterday Raheem Morris and nobody calling for his job after one loss, and then they have the worst loss of any team in the league this season, and it was fireable. And I wish he would be fired. You don't lose 30-0 to the Panthers and then 34-10 to the Dolphins and get to keep your job. But apparently he does. But anyway, see, I could be a fan too, everyone. But overall, when you look at a place like LSU or Penn State or Florida State, to a lesser degree, because this has been outrageous what's gone on here the last 2 years, 34-14 should be good enough to always keep your job. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. And there is no, and the thing is, there's no guarantee you're going to do better. Now, if it's a cultural fit, if they were just looking for a reason to get rid of him, okay. But he's exactly what you thought he was going to be. You hired a 34-14 coach. That's what he was at Notre Dame. That's what he was for you. He didn't embarrass you. You won 10-10-9. Now, he's a weirdo, and those recruiting videos were weird, and the way he said family was weird. I mean, I don't think he's a wonderful person, but he won 20 more games than he lost in 4 years, and he's gone. And you would think eventually these colleges are going to realize this is dumb to keep doing this. If they're going to go pay, let's just say, Lane Kiffin's on their hot board, Aslan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's on. Isn't that something? He's on the LSU hot board, and and there's also talk. I saw on Twitter. Who knows how serious it is? That Florida's thinking about a $13.5 million offer to Lane Kiffin, and it's like, when are these schools going to realize that? Because Lane Kiffin could go to Florida, he might be a very good coach at Florida. He still might have a year where he goes 7-5, or 5-7, and the next year he goes 10-3. Is he gone? Like, the lens of the way these schools and administrators and fans, by and large, more succinctly, the fans judge these programs anymore. It's got to be, you've got to recalibrate how you look at your college football programs. And I want to make this crystal clear before everybody turns off this podcast. This is not a defense of Mike Norvell. I think he should have been fired after the Stanford game. I'm saying, by and large, though, this is the way of the world, where Penn State has a couple of rough weeks, and they fire a guy that was in the playoffs last year. LSU has a bad half, a horrible half, and they fire the guy the next day, even though he's 34-14 since he's been there. So anyway, it's you've got to recalibrate that it's hard to win college football games. There's so much parity that you are just going to have bad days. The Falcons, again, horrible example because he should be fired. But they lost the Panthers 30-0 and then beat the Bills, just convincingly. Like, it's just the ebb and flow of a football season. It's hard to be consistently good and great. It just is. So anyway, like, should South Carolina fire Shane Beamer? What do you think?
No, I don't think so. But they are who they are. I mean, unless you're going to make something really splashy. Again, with all these jobs opening up, they're not going to get pick of the litter. They're not going to get best in show. So,
but they might be thinking we can do better than this at least.
Yeah, possibly.
Like, I think Brian Kelly is better than him.
Oh, yeah. Well, Brian Kelly going to South Carolina, though?
But I don't know. Where else would he go? Where else is he going to go? Well, the Noles going to make a run at him, Aslan? You want that around? Hey, he'll win. He's going to win more than he loses.
Yeah. Let's uncork the mailbag here and start off at the bottom. Last question came in from our guy Mark yesterday morning at 9:24 a.m. or, sorry, 8:44 a.m. I don't know what the 9:24 came from. Guys, with the blitz of firings and coaching openings, and there will be more, what are the upsides of FSU waiting it out until season's end? There has to be one that the decision makers see otherwise, other than his buyout, obviously. And I should have said this at the beginning. On Monday morning, Ira Schofel, managing editor of warchant.com, posted like a really good kind of what he's hearing around the program regarding Mike Norvell. I'm not going to give all of it away, but a little bit of dovetails into this where I think, listen, I know how improbable this sounds, everybody. I get it. Like, I'm with you. I think, even going back to 2 weeks ago and saying that, operating under any premise of like, well, what if he wins out was pretty ridiculous. And saying that right now is also ridiculous. But what if he wins 3 out of the next 5, right? That goes 3-2 to finish the season. He's 6-6. Is he marketable enough to get a head coaching job, group of 5, or maybe low tier power 4? Oklahoma State's a job that's open, for example, that Ira threw out there. Like, if you can get him to the end of the season, he wins some more games, he can leave with his head up a little bit higher, obviously, than it is now. and then he gets hired by, let's not even say Oklahoma State. Let's say Golish leaves USF to go to South Carolina because Beamer got fired, and Mike's going to pull the Taggart thing and just take the first job that comes open. Not FAU this time, but it's USF. USF's like, we can get you on the cheap. We'll give you a 4-year, $11.5 million deal because Florida State's paying you a bunch of money. Well, that's $11.5 million less that Florida State has to pay out. A not insignificant sum. So I think that's the one single upside that is left. That again, I think like the decision has been made. I think it was a courtesy. Like, hey man, either you're done right now, we'll pay you your money, get the hell out of here, or we do like you, win some more games, we'll all feel better, and then that helps your job prospects, and it makes us not have to pay you as much money. And I think Mike's like, I'm not a quitter. If I quit right now, I'm dead to rights. No one's going to hire me, so I'll finish the string out and see if I can get a couple more wins. I think the upside, again, Corey's like, go 3-2, finish respectable-ish, enough to where you can maybe bounce to another job really quickly, and then Florida State is off the hook for that amount of money.
Plus, they don't have to pay the buyout of whatever the next 6 weeks would be. So even that short term, waiting until December to fire him, I think saves you a couple million. Same probably if you're talking about all the assistants. Again, it's a drop in the bucket compared to what they're going to be spending, but it's a big drop. You're talking about if Aslan's right, if he can, I don't know, turn this thing around and make it just average, an average season, then yeah, he becomes more marketable and he has a chance to get a job. And I do think Norvell will coach again.
Oh, yeah. He's young, man.
But for sure, and I think he'll be a head coach somewhere. He might go back to Memphis if Memphis' guy leaves. You know what I mean? Go run that back. He was good there. It may be, sad to say, maybe that's the perfect that's where he belongs. In that conference at that school, winning a bunch of games there, as opposed to, in the ACC where clearly it's not working anymore for him. But I think when you're talking about, paying assistants contracts through the end of the year, paying Mike Norvell's contract through the end of the year, it is a few $1 million. That's not nothing.
But don't you have to pay it either way? I mean, either you're paying them to stick around or you're paying them to leave them. They're still getting their money either way,
I guess
right?
my thought would be, do you think Mike Norvell here right now gives you the best chance to have at least a decent end of the season? Or if you're coaching a man down or 2 or 3 men down and it seems like a rudderless ship and all the assistants are actively looking for other jobs and not recruiting, certainly not recruiting, maybe not even game planning, but because who cares? They've already given up on the season. It can tank really quickly. And at this point, it's going to be interesting with LSU, what that looks like.
Shout out Alex Atkins, play caller.
Yeah, for the first time in his life, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if he did it at Tulane. I don't think. Maybe he did it at Charlotte, but I don't think so. So yeah, he wasn't. He's the tight ends coach who's now calling plays when he never called plays when he was the OC at Florida State. But yeah, because LSU fired the offensive coordinator because I guess Brian Kelly wouldn't. So when Brian Kelly said he wouldn't fire the offensive coordinator, I guess he's like, well, then you're gone too. Is kind of the way I read it.
Okay, yeah. Joe Sloan didn't deserve to keep his job, but I guess shout out for being loyal, Brian Kelly. But
I mean, what they're saying is that Brian Kelly wouldn't do it. He told the administration, "I'm not firing him." So they're like, all right, well then you can pack your bags too. It's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But anyway, but other than that, there is. Yeah, the downside to me is that what it's going to be like on Saturday night if it starts poorly, what it's going to be like for Virginia Tech weekend. But you only have 2 home games left. It's not like you got 4 left, and honestly, there aren't going to be that many people watching the FSU Wake Forest game. There's going to be nobody watching the FSU Virginia Tech game except those 2 fan bases fans probably, or maybe Florida fans hate watching. So the point being, to me, the downside is the ugliness inside Doak Campbell Stadium because he's still here. If it goes poorly, it's going to be an ugly scene, in my opinion, with a lot of boos and maybe some not kind things yelled at the players and coaches. Other than that, it's not like there's an upside to just firing him other than to appease the fans, which is a big element. Don't get me wrong. There's not really an upside to doing it now. Like UCLA was the first school to fire their coach. What has that accomplished? Well, they got somebody locked and loaded? Are they in? I mean, other than they've won some games, I'm talking about for 2026. What has it accomplished for them?
2026, like getting a head start. I don't know, but I think
getting a head coach. Yeah,
I think it goes back to your point though. Like it's indicating to the fans this is not acceptable. We're going to try to fix it. I mean, we're not going to. Maybe we won't fix it, but we're going to try to fix it. And yeah, they had a couple Had a couple good little spots after that, which it's hard to think they would have had it had they retained Deshaun Foster.
100%. They have gotten better. I don't know that like Gus Malzahn or Tony White taking over this team makes this team much better. I could be wrong.
Right.
Maybe they played looser. I could be wrong. I'm sure I would have said the same thing about UCLA. It also seems like Virginia Tech is better since they made their, they beat California. I think they won a couple of games. They seem better since they fired Brent Pry. So maybe just cutting the head off the snake and letting everybody breathe because there's no tension about keeping job, not keeping job, letting everybody down, letting him down. That can free people up to go play. I also think it's easier to do it earlier in the year. Like now, when you can see the finish line, to fire him with like 4 games left, that could be the ultimate checkout, where all the players and all the coaches basically essentially are already in the portal, and they're not really showing up to practice, giving it their all. They're not game planning, giving it their all, and all. But who knows, man? Who knows? I don't see a ton. If he's fired the day after the Florida game, I don't know that derails you any more than if you'd have fired him that night in Palo Alto, as far as who you want to get. Because I do think, they're not just sitting here. There's no way they're going to be using this next month, just crossing their fingers, hoping Florida State can win a few games. As Aslan said, I think the decision has been made, at least, verbally, with the people that make these decisions. It's just a matter of, like, finally getting it done after the Florida game. But they are getting their ducks in a row. They have to be. They have to see that they are reaching out. They are not going to wait until the Saturday after Thanksgiving to start looking at what potential candidates are out there.
Well, that works out great because that was a question from random_John. What coach can we realistically hire that would bring in great foundational high school recruiting class in 4 days if we wait until the Florida game? So there you go, everybody. They're working on it.
But that's what everybody's doing. Like, what if Florida gets Kiffin? Like, Kiffin's going to be coaching in the playoffs. So how's that going to work? Yeah. They're going to just skip National Signing Day. Like that, who are they going to get? And honestly, Ole Miss. I would doubt it, but there's a chance he could be coaching when the portal opens up. Yeah. And so you're really missing out. But so I all these schools are in that predicament. Like Virginia Tech, Stanford, Penn State, Florida, LSU. Like, they're not going to make their hire known. Most likely, I shouldn't say this because who knows how this world works anymore. We're constantly surprised by all of this. But I don't think LSU is going to make their hire known until after the regular season, right? Doesn't that seem like that's the timetable for these things?
Unless you just hop on the James Franklin sweepstakes because you're afraid that, he's affordable and he's got good options. So, let's just go get this thing done.
Well, look, if that was a likelihood for Florida State or a possibility, people I think that have listened to this enough understand where I stand on that. I would have named him the head coach a week ago. If he wants to do it, if he's willing to do it, I don't see the downside of but I guess the downside is that, those coaches stop coaching. The players stop practicing. Because there is still at least a hope, I guess, among the people inside the program that they can keep their jobs if they turn it around. We'll see what that hope is like, Sunday morning around midnight, if they still have that hope.
Bisnol, Corey, with the big-time coaching jobs that are now open, LSU, Florida, Penn State, and others, potentially Auburn, opening up soon, is there a greater chance that we keep Mike simply due to the fact that we will not be able to pay up for a legitimate and desirable candidate? That's one way to be looking at this stuff. Tony G from DB, teams are firing coaches everywhere that have done more and recruited better than Mike. So is it time for FSU to just say bye-bye and get started on a search? Or should FSU not be wishy-washy and back Mike fully? Because limbo doesn't work. And then we go to Crazy Seminole, who I think these are all related, Corey, but I'll be honest with you, man. Crazy Seminole's been a subscriber since 2004.
Okay.
So tie goes to the older dude. Does the imminent piling on of firings push up the timeline for potentially letting Mike go? And again, this is the biggest thing that's kind of happened since we did the show on Sunday, which we recorded really early on Sunday before it became official. But, seeing Brian Kelly being jettisoned has got everybody else asking all these questions, Corey. It's generating discussion. It's sparked by Cummins. Let us do so. Can you give us some energy, Corey, please? Push the button, though.
Oh, yeah. Push. But still start it if you can.
There we go. It's generating discussion. It's sparked by Cummins. Give them a follow on Instagram. It's all one word, Cummins lifestyle. There's Noles behind the whole marketing operation at the corporate level, everybody. So let's support our own. You can see all the cool things you can do, again, with your outdoor recreational time when you've got portable, reliable, quiet power. You know who's been doing it for a long, long time? Cummins. Give it a follow on Instagram. Check out what you can do with those portable generators, whether it's on wheels, whether it's on the wheels of your RV, whether it's on your boat. You know how it goes. Portable power, quiet, reliable. It's Cummins. Give them a follow. All right, Corey. Does the eminent piling on of the firings, has it changed your calculus at all? I was a little bit more fired up. I put in the group chat, I was like, I'm glad we recorded before the Brian Kelly thing, because I might have been a little bit more emotional and a little bit more frustrated with what Florida State's dealing with right now. Is what we're seeing across the country. And you asked Mike about it on Monday, didn't get really a great answer, but just everything else that's going on, is that going to have to affect the calculus for the Florida State administration?
I struggle with this because I don't think so. I think Florida State is its own entity, and you can't really be worried about what LSU or Penn State. And it's really just LSU. We knew Napier was done. LSU was the one that's a surprise because now maybe you didn't think they'd be on the look for a head coach 3 weeks ago, and now they are too. So maybe you're competing with them, but maybe you're not. Maybe they're fishing from a different pond than you anyway, or you're not going to be going for after whoever they decide to go for. There's a lot of coaches out there that are capable of leading both of these programs. I think what Florida State fans are worried about is like the pecking order. Okay, LSU gets to go first. Then what? Florida, then Florida State, or Florida State, then Florida. Where's Penn State in the mix? Right now, those are the big four, right? Penn State, LSU, Florida, and Florida State. I would argue that Florida, Florida State, and LSU to me are just about equal. If you get a good coach in there, you're going to win and win a lot. Penn State has not won a national championship since 1986. Now, they were in the playoff last year, so they're capable of doing it. But I just think it's easier to win at Florida, Florida State, and LSU than it is Penn State. So I think those three might be in the market for some of the similar names. And if does LSU, like is James Franklin, let's just use Franklin as an example. If he's coming down to choosing between LSU and Florida State, does it matter that LSU fired Brian Kelly on October 26th and Florida State didn't fire Mike Norvell till November 26th? Like, does that matter? If there's talks going on behind the scenes, which we're all grown-ups, we know there will be with whoever their potential candidates are. Florida State is not going into this thinking, well, let's see what that Florida game looks like at the end of the year. Then we'll decide who we should go after as a head coach. They're figuring this thing out. So I think it's more about if Florida State looks terrible against Wake Forest. I think you make the firing I think you make the decision whether Brian Kelly was still at LSU or not. I don't know that it has much to do with it, honestly.
I mean, I get it though. Again, like you said, it's you're kind of drafting, right? Like, I don't know exactly where Florida State's draft spot is going to be. But no, I mean, there's going to be so many openings, and there's not going to be enough qualified or candidates that meet the standard at a lot of these programs. But I think Florida State shouldn't be one of those teams that's going to have to contend with that. What do you think about Bisnol's kind of thing about, is there a greater chance with all these openings, right? Like all these other guys are going to be open, all these other programs rather, that, they have to keep Mike just because they will not be able to afford a guy that's Florida State standard. Like they cannot throw $13 million a year at Lane Kiffin. They can't throw, whatever else. I don't know who else is like, the hot board's got like Clark Lee or whatever from Vanderbilt, which I don't think he'll leave. He's a Vanderbilt alum. He's from Nashville, but is there any fear that Florida State might have to hold on because they simply just don't have the war chest to get a guy that is a slam dunk better than Mike Norvell? Yeah,
but I don't know who out there other than, to me, Lane Kiffin. I don't know who's a slam dunk. So no, I would think that'd be financially irresponsible and kind of dumb, honestly, in the current landscape. I will be to just pay a coach that kind of money. I will be really interested to see whoever Florida or LSU does hire, or Penn State. What kind of buyout language are you going to have? It's just the way of the world. Are these ADs and presidents finally going to get their heads out of their behinds and realize you don't have to have those kind of ridiculous buyout clauses in these contracts? They want to coach at your institution. Or otherwise they wouldn't be. Jeff Brom wouldn't be interviewing at Penn State, and I'm just using him as an example. If he didn't want to come there, so don't bid against yourself and say we'll give you a $50 million buy. It's just stupid. It's pure stupidity. But I look, man. I think other than Lane Kiffin, I don't know that there's anybody that out there that's even worth half that. If you're going to give them a real roster, man, give them a real roster. Give them money to spend on a real roster and make your contract incentive laden, where if you reach these certain milestones, you get more money and more money. That to me is the way to do it. I don't think Florida State is. I would be surprised if they're in the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes. I also would be surprised if Lane Kiffin left. But I think everybody else is in play. I think anybody that would consider LSU would consider Florida State, would consider Florida, would consider Penn State. There are, and out of those 4 hires, 2 of them are probably not going to be good. They're not going to work out. And the likelihood is all 4 of the guys that get hired at those 4 schools are going to be fired. That's just the way of the world. So know that going in. I don't think that you are losing any ground as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing behind the scenes and doing your due diligence behind the scenes. I don't think you're losing any ground in some coaching search because LSU axed their guy on Sunday night and yours is still answering questions the Monday morning wearing a Florida State polo. I don't think you're behind. I don't think you're behind in the race.
I know it's not definite, right? It might not even be a probable thing, and but it does affect the entire dominoes thing of all this. But like, Steve Sarkisian, I think, has had like 2 quotes out there after the game where they beat Mississippi State. Where listen, there was a report from Diana Rossini that apparently his agency has reached out to NFL teams to gauge their interest in him being a head coach at the NFL, but then his agents came out and say like it's irresponsible or inaccurate. But, Sarkisian has been like, I think it was crazy for them to report that and for everybody to believe it. But he wasn't like, and it's not true.
Right.
So if the Texas job opens up too, then does that then affect the calculus, or does everything kind of stay the same in your mind about, listen, like Florida State's got a place. They've probably have a profile of the guy they want and they're working it right now. And, maybe you feel a little bit of heat to try to get it done sooner than later. Even if they do beat Wake Forest, if a job like Texas comes open and maybe they start kicking around the tires of that guy that you have identified.
But I wonder what the time element matters. If everybody's doing the same due diligence behind the scenes, one doesn't have a job opening yet, but will soon. We all assume the other ones, the jobs are already open. I don't know that affects anything. It's agents talking to other agents, or it's agents talking to administrations. I don't think the head coaches are talking or going on interviews right now. So other than it's a unique season though. It's a unique cycle because I think Brian Kelly is going to be wanted. I think James Franklin is absolutely going to be wanted, and they're not coaching right now. So that makes it a little different. Usually you're hiring from coaches who have done well, not that have just been fired. Yeah. But because we live in this crazy world now where 2 highly successful coaches just got fired, it changes the dynamics a little bit, where you could be reaching out to a Brian Kelly and he would absolutely be interested because he's not game planning for Alabama. And Penn State and James Franklin's not game planning for Ohio State. He's there doing nothing. So he would listen more, and maybe that's where it gets you. If you're somehow and for some reason waiting till the end of the season to explore all these options, and I just don't think they are. I would be stunned if Florida State hadn't reached out to sent feelers out to 8 to 10 different people.
Well, here's the thing: like, can you take a Florida State back channel conversation as serious as you can take an LSU or a Florida one right now? Because they do not have a coach, and I get it. Like, hey, like. Yeah. They're telling us that they're going to move on from him, but they haven't, though. Yeah. Like, it's not. It goes back to the whole honor amongst thieves and Jimbo. Like, I'm not going to talk about jobs that other people have, and it's like, I do wonder how much that affects things.
Yeah, but I think if it wasn't so imminent, it just feels so imminent. This isn't like, and I think Auburn feels imminent. I think Auburn is waiting for him to lose another game, and then Hugh Freeze is probably done. But hey, Hugh Freeze managed to win a game, Mike. Wasn't that something? On the road, no less. So I think that I do think that's a good point. But I feel like Florida State feels so imminent. It's not like up in the air whether he stays or goes. I feel like we all think he's going. That maybe makes those conversations a little easier than they would be otherwise, or at like a place like I don't know, man, like South Carolina, if they're looking to maybe think about going in a different direction from Beamer, that this feels different because this feels so likely. It's just a matter of when, not if, that would matter. And maybe if they get the yes from someone that they want, and it's not official, but it's definitely a yes, he's coming, then maybe the Norvell firing at that point is expedited. I don't know how these things work. I just know that Florida State fans wanted Mike Norvell fired a while ago, and it angers them, understandably, that LSU doesn't waste any time. Penn State didn't waste any time. Florida even didn't waste any time. They fired their guy after a win. And yet you keep holding on to this guy. From the outside, it could be perceived as those teams care more about winning than you do. It's not a great look. At the same time, there are other factors in play, and we'll see how it all shakes out, man. We'll all know by December 5th where all these schools landed and who we think won this coaching cycle.
Go to warchant.com. Check out Irish O'Fell's reporting, what he's hearing behind the scenes. He's been on this beat for like 25 years, everybody. So he knows a lot of the voices, and he's reported some stuff on the site that you probably will find interesting if you're panicked about time frames and is this guy safe? And if this happens, will this happen? And et cetera, et cetera. So he'll connect the dots for you. It's only $1. Go check it out. Warchant.com. Also check out Cummins Lifestyle on Instagram. It's all one word. Give them a follow. CPTallybar.com. That's a website, but it's a website for a place called the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill located at 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Come on out tonight for trivia starting at 7 p.m. sharp. Corey, you putting the strap, the belt, the title up for defense later tonight?
Yeah, I believe we are actually, buddy. So come and get some, everyone. Come and get some.
It's fun, though, everybody. It's fun competition. Delicious food, ice-cold drinks. The happy hour weekdays goes from 4 to 7 p.m. all day on Sundays. Yes, even during NFL Sundays, everybody. Thursday night, bingo night. 4 rounds, $250 in cash up for grabs in each single round. So there's a $1,000 purse on Thursday nights over at the CP. And then Friday, 5 p.m., the meet and greet going down as we get ready for the Wake Forest weekend. So come on out, say hi. Brady Clark will be there, everybody.
Maybe. It's tentative.
Now he's questionable. Now he's questionable.
Yeah, questionable. That's right.
All right. Well, his pops, Corey, is definite. He's locked in there, written in Sharpie, everybody. So come on out and say hi, hang out at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway, cptallybar.com, the website.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Why would you wander around a warehouse store looking for paint when you could just swing by your neighborhood Ace? In addition to Ace's award-winning service, we have top-rated paint brands. Plus, our color matching technology allows us to match any color. So stop wandering and start painting. Head to your neighborhood Ace today.
In Crawfordville, your home convenience store is Ace Home Center and Napa Auto Parts, located at 2709 Crawfordville Highway.
We're back. It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy. warchantbogo, your promo code. Jimbo11, wake up. How in the world are we 7.5-point favorites over Wake Forest?
Great question, Jimbo11. Great question. What's so funny is usually Vegas books and online books and apps and everything, they always assume that a team that has a lot of fans, those fans will always bet on that team. Like Yankees fans are always going to bet that the Yankees are going to win. Alabama fans usually believe in their team and bet on Alabama to win. Oh, no way they're going to lose at South Carolina. With Florida State fans, in this game in particular, I just assume all the money is going to go on Wake Forest, and it's going to be the Florida State fans that drop that number to like maybe 6.5 or 6 by the time the game starts, because no Florida State fans believe in this team, and I think everybody I've talked to about it are stunned by that number. Yeah. Stunned, because it seems like one team figures out a way to win games, and one team doesn't. And the one team that figures out a way to win games, they're getting a touchdown. They're getting 7.5 points. It seems outlandish, Aslan, but I don't know. Maybe, hey, Vegas typically knows what they're doing, so we'll see what that number is by the end of the week, though. I feel like Florida State fans are going to knock that number down a little bit.
Yeah, well, the last 2 weeks, though, have they known? I mean, 18.5-point favorite against Stanford, and I think it was about a touchdown again against Pitt.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I agree with what Corey saying at the beginning. Like, yeah, there's a psychological aspect to this where you're dealing with the fan base and you need to get even action on both sides, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. Maybe I think Wake had 5 turnovers. Somebody said in the comments. I should be able to fact check that, but I don't have it available. So I don't know. Maybe that was such a sloppy win that maybe their record is a little bit smoke and mirrors, and coming to the road, coming off a bye, all these sort of things, affect the way that these line makers, the sharp set things. So that possibly could be it. All that said, I probably will be picking Wake Forest during the Warchant report. But
why wouldn't you at this point? You're on fire.
Maybe I'll change my mind here at some point. Hayden Walton, last week's winner of generating discussion sparked by Cummins. Wake Forest up. I really enjoyed the expansion of the Seminole Heritage branding and merchandise by Florida State. I know others have not, but Wake Forest is Seminole Heritage Week. We found out about the turquoise football uniforms in 2023. Is there really a chance they still won't be worn again this year, and we will wait until 2026 because of this losing streak? And should they really not be worn because of us losing games? It's supposed to be more about honoring the Seminole tribe than any other circumstances, right? Yeah, maybe they finally uncork them. I just, again, that's all I'm going to say, Corey, sorry. If they're going to wear turquoise jerseys, they have to wear gold helmets, they have to wear gold pants. You can't do any garnet. Just can't. Just don't. It's going to look it won't look right. Trust me.
I think the turquoise would look good with garnet pants. You don't?
No, man. It's going to look like some kind of weird, like icy Christmas promotion person outside of a convenience store spinning a sign, I feel like. Yeah, no, I'm not buying it.
I mean, at this point, just let them wear vests. Who cares what uniforms they show up in? Shirtless. Be shirts for skins. Who cares? I'm not saying who cares about the heritage.
It is weird though, right, Corey, that they have this.
Week.
They have this whole Seminole. They have this whole Heritage Week.
Yeah.
The turquoise has a significance of the Seminole tribe.
Yes,
and then you don't.
And they do it in all the other sports.
Yeah,
and they do it in all the other sports. I think they would be to the point of the question. Maybe fans would not take kindly to it because it's like, man, can't y'all just wear the normal Florida State gear? Why do you guys have to keep switching up the uniform? Just wear traditional. In this instance, I don't think people would be bothered that much by it because it is the Heritage Week. Norvell did bring it up on Monday, which again, the guy does get what it's supposed to be like as the head coach of Florida State. He does get the talking points and what he should care about, and he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to talk about Seminole Heritage Week. He understands the importance of that relationship with the Seminole Tribe of Florida and just what this university is or tries to be and what it tries to stand for. He just can't win any games, so it's a bummer. But that said, I wouldn't have a problem. I had a bigger problem with them switching up their uniforms earlier in the season. This, wear them. Wear them. That's what I mean. Who cares as far as who cares if a few Florida State fans will be mad that you're not wearing the traditional Florida State garb? It's you know what? There's nothing traditional about this Florida State stretch anyway, about this football team and this football program right now. So, yeah, go ahead and honor it. See what it looks like. It might be good luck. It can't be any worse luck than what you've been wearing. But, yeah, I guess have they never worn blue jerseys?
Not that I recall. No, I mean they sell them, but yeah, I don't think they've actually worn them in a football game. Or maybe they.
Why not?
I think during the spring game they might have had some guys wearing turquoise jerseys. Maybe defense did. Or maybe the injured players were wearing it instead of a green jersey. But yeah, I don't think they've worn it in an actual football, an official football game. I'm going to read one thing here, of course, not a question, but then it kind of ties into the next thing, so we'll let it ruminate in the ether for a minute. Teacher Noel, wake up, fellas. I really think we need to get used to the fact that Mike is probably going to be around for at least another year. Yes, LSU may have just fired their coach who has a similar buyout, but they didn't just drop 9 figures on stadium renovations, including a god-awful overpriced porch. Their words, not mine. Tens of millions more on a football-only facility, which they did move into. And that's something that Mike's grateful for. So, he knows what to say. This doesn't even consider what we're probably trying to put away in a piggy bank to pay the exit fee to leave the conference. We are leveraged beyond belief. And if the money was there to fire Mike, they would have done it 3 times by now. Okay. Fair points.
I mean, we'll see, right?
Yeah. Well, then
all I can say right now is we'll see.
Yeah, and this goes to S-Rod 1998, who was an absolute wagon last week, just trying to rally the troops. And he kept tagging us in a bunch of his posts where he would do hashtag glory days, and he was just posting photo after photo after photo after photo of good times as a Florida State football fan. But he was saying firing means other available head coaches as well as job openings. I'm sure we are already talking to agents. We are not broke. It's not a lump sum we're paying out. And there is a cost of not taking action. Having said all of that, do you believe that Michael Alford's statement meant, A, we do have money, but we sure don't want to spend it unless we have to, so let's see if we can win out, beat Florida, and things cool down, or B, we are moving on, but that includes evaluating who makes the next hire?
Yeah, possibly B there. Who is going to make that hire? Who's going to be in charge of that search? It's all, it's a lot of moving parts. But I do think they're moving. I don't think they're just being stagnant. Like, oh well, Florida State fans can suck it. I hope they're not upset by a 3-9 season followed by a 2-10 season. We don't have the money to pay this guy. You can't. I just don't think that's even remotely realistic. When you're trying to sell season tickets, you're trying to drum up interest. You're trying to get a lot of goodwill towards from your fan base towards your program. And if you bring him back, especially if this thing continues to just not be good at all, if there's no good days, if there's no good Saturdays over the next 6 weeks, yeah, man, you're asking for apathy and anger. I guess that's a contradiction. If you're apathetic, you don't care either way. The two options are either apathy or anger. There's not going to be any understanding because it's not the Florida State fans that love their football team and so enjoy winning games on Saturdays and basking in that. They're not the ones that made the boneheaded decision, in hindsight, boneheaded decision, of giving this guy a $50 million extension. So why then do they get punished? You punish yourself. Sorry, administration, you made a stupid decision. Go find some money or go live with this. But you go spend smarter and not more. But you've got to figure out a way to rectify this. And Mike Norvell, it seems to me, is untenable at coming back at this point. The way his team looks, essentially the way his team looks. This seems untenable. When it comes to the LSU thing, I see a lot of people on Twitter. I think this question kind of leads you to think that like LSU cares more about football than Florida State because they went and made that decision and Florida State didn't. It's like, come on, man. I think that was an idiotic decision by LSU. The guy had a really bad half, but that doesn't mean he's a bad football coach, and there is absolutely no guarantee you're going to get better than Brian Kelly. I mean, I think if you polled, 1,000 football coaches, about who have been the best college football coaches of the last 10 to 15 years, isn't Brian Kelly in the top 10?
Who else is out there that's definitely for sure better than Brian Kelly that you're going to be able to get? I mean, I don't know if Lane, I don't know if Lane really is.
Yeah, Lane, I guess, but Lane has accomplished as much as Brian Kelly. Yep. Not any more, not really any less. He's doing it at Ole Miss, which is not a traditional power like, let's say, Notre Dame and LSU, but neither one of them have been to the playoffs. Neither one have won a playoff game. Clearly, because they've never even been to the playoffs. So Brian Kelly did coach in a national championship game. Either way, I think that Brian Kelly is a very good football coach who's had a pretty good tenure at LSU, and they just fired him. That does not mean they made the right decision and Florida State has made the wrong decision by waiting. I don't know if it's the right decision or the wrong decision, but I do know that I don't agree with LSU's. It just seems so knee-jerk.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man, number one, they lost to a really good team, apparently. But they lost to they had a horrible half. And, yeah, so, anyway, I think Florida State will make if this thing ends up going on completely, not getting back to even respectability this year, and they end up with another losing season, and they miss a bowl again, yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know how you could – you can't say we're bringing it back. You can't. Sorry. You don't have to pay off the lump sum all at once. There is some offset language in there so that when he does get hired somewhere, at least you're off the hook for whatever that contract is. But you cannot bring Mike Norvell back to lead this program after he has a losing season in year 6, after going 2-10 in year 5.
I do wonder if they do go 6-6 and they part ways and they do make it to a bowl game. Like, I think that's a good thing because you get these practices to let the new staff like kind of watch some of it. They're obviously not going to coach in it, but to evaluate these players. But man, I just wonder like who's going to want to play in that game. But hey, I mean, again, that's another one of the upsides of keeping him, because again, if you think that he's better off these next 5 games than Odell would be for you, which I don't necessarily disagree or agree with, but getting to a bowl game, there still is not a value in terms of like helping your brand out, but in terms of giving the next coach some runway to figure things out. Back to the administration, Corey. North Alabama, Noel. If you could go back to any moment in time during Mike's tenure at Florida State, change one single action or decision, what would it be? For me, it's choosing to not extend him after the 23 season. In that scenario, either A, Bama hires him away, and these seasons never happen, or B, his buyout is manageable after 2024, and he's presumably let go after said season. There are likely quite a few things that could have gone the other way, like maybe getting Cam Ward or Jordan not getting hurt. Yeah. What say you? I feel a little uncomfortable about this, Corey, just because, listen, I'm not been the biggest Mike Norvell fan, but I'm pretty sure whatever we talked about in early January of 2024, I probably had some anxiety about losing him. Did not think that would be a good idea. So yeah, obviously with the luxury of 2020 hindsight, don't sign this guy to a $60 million, $70 million extension, or whatever it turned out to be. But that feels a little bit disingenuous. So, but it does answer the question. That's probably the one single thing. Like, don't do that monster extension.
Yeah, I mean that. I almost want to say take that one off the board. Like that's obvious. Number one. If he'd have gone to Alabama, we wouldn't be in this mess, or any other school. And I do think it's easy now to say it was a mistake, and it was. I don't think it's a mistake. I mean, we're allowed to reflect, and hindsight is there for a reason. It was a horrible decision to give him that extension with that kind of buyout. Just horrible. Because it wouldn't have set – if he had gone to Alabama, you wouldn't have been any worse than you are right now. You couldn't be, possibly. 5-15, two wins over real programs in 2 years? No. So you didn't gain anything by keeping him. In hindsight, we know that. But when you think about the time and that, like, it was Alabama, man. Like the team that had just stolen unfairly your spot in the playoff. And then they're going to steal your coach. That I just think that adds a layer and a dimension to it that it's easy to forget now. But in that moment, the gut punch that would have felt like, the utter gut punch and the utter, like, where does Florida State even fit in? Like, what are we doing here? Alabama just runs the sport. They take your girl and they kick your dog. Like, that's what you're looking at, man. You're looking at they take your spot, and then, oh, that's a shiny, cool new coach. Florida State seems to like him. Let's take him too. It would have just been awful for the psyche of this fan base for those 3 months until spring practice started to have your head coach that had led you to a 13-0 season then accept the job at the school that stole your playoff bid. Would have been awful. Would have been awful. But not nearly as bad as what we've been living with since. So we'd have gotten over it because this has been an absolute train wreck since that day, literally since he stood up when they showed Alabama as the number 4 seed in that playoff and walked out of that room. It has been a nightmare in Tallahassee, Florida for the football program. So many things were lost that day, I think. I will go back, and I said it then. I will continue to say it. They should have not accepted the bid at the Orange Bowl. I don't know that would have mattered, but getting beat by 60 points did not help the program in any way. Awesome, y'all got to cash that check and then use all that money to keep this guy around for $50 extra million. If they would have just not played in that Orange Bowl, maybe this thing breaks a different way, but probably not. But that was the start of it all, was him walking out of that room dumbfounded with good reason and just so upset. And then 4 hours later, is having to talk about the upcoming Orange Bowl matchup with Kirby Smart. Just ridiculous.
People want questions asked. It is the mailbag, but they don't want to ask us questions. They want us to ask the coach questions. I'm just going to read a bunch of them, and then there's actually a question at the end of this, believe it or not, Corey.
Okay.
S. Pelham's got 3 questions he wants asked. Mike, do you not know the specific reasons why we've played so poorly, or are you simply unwilling to share them with the public? Question number 2, are we so poor at playing zone and positioning linebackers because the players seem unable or unwilling to do what's necessary to learn, or because the coaches are doing a poor job at teaching them? We get Pat Surtain later today I know they're not linebackers, but we can ask him about zone defense. See, maybe if he agrees or not that they're struggling in zone defense. Third question would be, what specifically are you and your staff doing differently, given that what we've done so far hasn't worked very frequently? Or is it all the player's fault? We have another really tough question here. They want us to press on it. Number 22, Wadata 80. Mike, given that you've made the decision to part ways with Ron Dugans, Alex Atkins, and Adam Fuller, who did not meet performance expectations, I'm curious how you view your own performance. Simply stated, if you were the AD evaluating a head coach with 6 years of comparable outcomes, would you consider a leadership change appropriate? Good questions. I don't have the balls to ask everybody, but
I mean, it is a good question, but it's not a realistic question. I don't think, because what's the point of, what are you trying to get out of that? Is he going to say, yeah, I would fire me? Because he's not going to say that, and you wouldn't want somebody standing at that podium that would say that. He's going to say what he always says. I understand it's a passionate business, and we have not lived up to expectations these last 2 years, and that's on me. But I know I can fix it. I know what it looks like. It's going to be the same stuff. He's not going to sit there and be like, you know what? I'm going to call Alford today and turn in my resignation. That's a great point. Because, yeah, man, I get the point of the question, but we all know the reality, and the reality is that he has not been good enough. It's not like he doesn't look at the scoreboard at the end of games. He knows he hasn't been good enough, and he knows that the only reason he wasn't fired after 2-10 was that buyout. They couldn't afford to then, so they gave him a bunch of high-priced assistants hoping that would help. It has not. He knows his time is limited. So I get the anger, and I'm not saying it's a poorly worded question. I don't even think it would take balls to ask. I mean, maybe you'd ask it with a little more tact. Like, could you understand why Michael Alford would be looking for a change? Something like that. But at the end of the day, he's going to just morph it into the answer he always gives, which is what you'd want him to do anyway, because if he chose the other side, like, yeah, I would have fired my ass after Jacksonville State, if we're being honest. But, hey, I milked y'all out of another $80 million, so thanks, everyone. Like, he's not going to answer the question in any way that would give us any real insight, which to me is why you ask questions for the most part. Sometimes you just throw layups out there and softballs. But a lot of times you ask questions to try to get some insight into what they're thinking.
Worthless question, but I'm sorry, Corey. I've got the microphone in front of me. I can do it every now and then. Back to the question about, what's the one thing you would change? And obviously taking off the extension, like, is there a game or two that if they don't win it, you think he doesn't even make it to the point where they have the quandary of having to re-up him at such a high price tag to keep him away from Alabama? Like, if I know we talked about the Shaheem Brown blocking the extra point against LSU. If they don't win that game, like, who knows how it turns out? And like, do you go if they don't beat Miami in 21? Like, if Andrew Parchment doesn't make that catch and they lose to Miami and then they end up losing to Florida at the end, I wonder if they even makes it to 2022 at that point. Because I think maybe at that juncture, David Coburn had transitioned off of being the AD, or I should actually look at the timeline. It might not be right. But, he's the one who made the hire. David Coburn was the acting athletic director when they brought in Mike Norvell. So maybe at that point, Alford is able to, make a decision like, yeah, this is not working. I just wonder if there's anything else.
But then it's like, I guess, but then that robs us of 22 and 23 and Jordan Travis and Jared Verse and Keon Coleman. Like, those were fun seasons.
Yeah, you're right.
So, that takes all that away. It was fun to win 19 games in a row. Now you could say, yeah, you're stuck here in 2025 with this mess. Was it worth it? And I'm like, I kind of depends on how you view life, right? Like, there's no guarantee if you'd have fired him after 21 that you have anything. I would assume you probably aren't going to win 19 games in a row, whoever you hired next. That was a fun time to be a Florida State fan. It was a fun time to cover this team. And you can't just dismiss it because it's going poorly now. Like, I don't know what I would do to trade a 19-game winning streak. That's why I kind of look more towards the 2024 season. Like, yeah, I don't really think there's. I think obviously the buyout is the worst thing, because I think
get Tommy. Go get Tommy then and there.
Oh, for 2024.
Yeah, because if we're going to take off the extension, right?
Yes, yeah. I would say yes.
Because maybe 5 and 7. Maybe go 5 and 7, 6 and 6 with Tommy. But
that was so much deeper than the quarterback, though, right? Yeah. That was bad decisions all around. Here's what I would say, honestly, and again, it's hindsight. I get it, and I was not, saying this March of 2024. But when you look at how bad that offensive line was for much of the 2023 season, they won in spite of the offensive line, not because of it. And remember, all those guys played in the Orange Bowl. They were all there. Yeah. And you played a Florida team that wasn't very good. You played a Louisville team that was good but not great. And you played a Georgia team that had dudes sitting out. The one thing you would, if you're a real program that's built for sustainability, that veteran offensive line showing up is such a warm comfort blanket for your young quarterback, for your running game, and they did nothing. They couldn't run the ball really against Florida at all. They couldn't do anything against that Louisville, not one thing other than a wildcat to Toafili. That was the play. That was it. That should have told someone this isn't good enough. This isn't good enough because next year we don't have Jordan Travis and Keon and Trey Benson and Johnny Wilson. We are going to have to be better up front. We are going to have more of a plan up front and play younger, better players. This isn't good enough because that offensive line was horrible against Florida, in my opinion, horrible against Louisville, not an opinion, a fact, and then really bad against Georgia, even though they were all there. So, I don't know. That could have been a decision. Like, are Atkins and Fuller good enough, even though we just went 13-0, are they good enough to get this to the next level? Or not even the next level. You were already at the appropriate level to stay here. Or was this more player-driven success and special player-driven success? And once we just get some decent college football players and not next-level college football players, are we going to regress immensely? And they absolutely did.
We are awaiting some of our picks over at Underdog Fantasy Sports, but get started. Download the app now, everybody, and sign up with promo code WARCHANT. Score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. Again, that's promo code WARCHANT. How about some national flavor here, Corey? We got a lot of quarterbacks. We've got Carson Beck taking on SMU, Gunnar Stockton taking on the Gators, C.J. Carr and Notre Dame taking on Boston College, Ole Miss taking on South Carolina. The quarterbacks, we got numbers. How about Haynes King, Georgia Tech at NC State, 210 passing yards, higher or lower?
Lower.
I'm not going to give you Jaden Maiava because I don't think you've been watching a lot of Big Ten football, and that's fine.
No.
Joey Aguilar, Tennessee playing Oklahoma. Tough loss for Oklahoma. 267.5 passing yards. So that's still a Brett Venables defense.
Where's that game?
I think it's at Oklahoma.
But you don't know because that's going to change.
Well,
if it's at Tennessee, I'm going to say
it's Tennessee. It's at Tennessee because the other game says USC at Nebraska. This just says Tennessee versus Oklahoma.
Okay, so. I'm going to say over, higher, guys,
Good
higher,
job. Good
higher.
Job. All right. Do you want Trinidad Chambliss and Ole Miss, or do you want Gunnar Stockton? Gunnar Stockton 224.5 against the Gators. Higher, lower?
Lower. I don't like going lower. But I have with two of these three.
Right.
I think they're going to try to just run the ball. He's not I don't think he's a great passer yet. Florida's got a good defense. I think they're going to just try to grind out Georgia's going to try to grind out like a 24-10 win.
All right. $10 standard pick'em, $60, 6-1 payout, everybody. 6-1
Have we been
payout.
keeping track of how well I've been doing on these things? Am I like 0 for all of them, or have I been hitting on a few of them?
No, I know you hit on the one a few weeks back. I think the Stanford game, we fell short of the glory of winning that one. But
sorry, guys.
We'll follow back up on this. I don't have the Monday night results in front of me to see how we did on Monday Night Football, but I'm not going to grade you on the Monday Night Football. We're only going to grade you on the Florida State ones. But nonetheless, if you feel like Corey might be off on one of these, you can do the flex, which you'll still get a 3-1 payout. But Corey's going to get it right. Gunnar Stockton lower, Joey Aguilar higher, Haynes King lower. Download the app today. Sign up with promo code WARCHANT to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code WARCHANT. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog, make picks, win money. Underdog Fantasy Sports must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 and older in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. We're back. It's Wake Up War Champ, presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, warchantbogo, your promo code. Was going to dovetail the last part of the segment into this question, but we went a little bit long because I had to ask you a unrelated follow-up, Corey. That's on me. Greenville, first thing, wake up. Second, Corey, awesome ending question last Wednesday with Norvell, even if he did not have an answer for it. With that said, what do you think the answer is? How can you beat Alabama and then lose every other meaningful game?
There's really no way for him to answer that, like, honestly and truthful. He really might not know. I think, and I also think there is some truth to, like, there are ebbs and flows and ups and downs to seasons. We all get that, right? We watch college football around the country. We see what these teams look like from one week to the next. It's hard to predict, very hard to predict. What's concerning, to the point where he will no longer be here, you imagine, in a few weeks, is it's pretty easy to predict, typically, when Mike Norvell's team feels good about itself, it plummets quickly. And I was thinking about that when he was talking on Monday, Aslan. Like, that Notre Dame showing in 2021,
right,
after 3-6, that was a great showing. You even lost the turnover battle. I think Jordan had three turnovers or 3 picks. Kyle Hamilton's a badass, though. Let's be honest. Like, one of those interceptions was insane. But you go and you take a top 10 team, coming off 3-6 and one of the worst seasons in school history, with no expectations. You go and take a top 10 team on opening night to overtime, and in the fourth quarter you dominate. You look great doing it. Really, truly, you look great. And then what happened the next week, Aslan?
Defeat
to Jacksonville State.
Inglorious defeat on a Hail Mary.
Right, man. But even if you knock away that final pass, great, you scored 13 points.
Yeah, you had 4th and goal at the 1-yard line to put the game away, and you threw a fade to I don't even remember who, and yeah.
So you win whatever it was. You lose 16-13. You scored 13 points. You scored 1 touchdown against Jacksonville State after scoring 5, I think, against Notre Dame.
20-17.
How do you explain that?
Final score was 20-17.
Oh, sorry. So you scored 2 touchdowns. My fault, McKenzie.
And
Forgot
Kenny.
the other one.
Show Kenny respect. He's on
Kenny,
the hot
that's
board.
right. That's my fault. Yeah, that's right. He's on the LSU hot board, too. And the Florida State hot board. He's on all of them.
You can go back to 2020 if you want to, man, when they beat North Carolina.
Yeah. And they go up to Louisville, right?
Yeah. That was
and get hammered.
One, yeah.
Yeah, man, it's just that to me is what went wrong here. Other than the greatness of Jordan Travis and Burris and Keon, like, it'd be nice if you kept players like that around. Like, if you kept flooding your roster with great players, you could withstand these ebbs and flows, mostly ebbs. But how do you take Notre Dame to overtime and then lose to Jacksonville State? Yeah. How does that happen? How do you beat Alabama and lose to Stanford? How do you go 13-0 and 2-10? It's all about when his players think they're better than they are, or they think they've arrived, they suck. And it has been that way now that we're in year 6. I don't know why. He doesn't know why, or he'd stop doing it. But I don't know if he builds these guys up too much, doesn't coach them hard enough once they've proven they're good, which I don't believe because their practices always seem to be the same, or he just doesn't get good enough players. I don't know. But I know that they always start pretty strong. Notre Dame 2021 was the best game they played. I would say LSU 2022 was probably the best game they played. One of them anyway. Obviously, LSU 2023 was the best game they played. Georgia Tech in 2024 was the best game they played, sadly. And then Alabama in 2025 is clearly the best game they played. And after that, his teams always go south. Always.
Here. Yeah, here.
Here, right. Yeah, Memphis, I'd love to go back and look at Memphis. I feel like they were probably pretty good in November. And when they won a game or two, they'd keep winning. I just don't know what the disconnect is with his teams and success, or almost success, because then it turns to failure real quick. So I don't even remember what the question was, but it's just odd that keeps happening.
Yeah,
what was the question?
How do you beat Bama but lose to everybody else?
Because he's Mike Norvell, man. I don't know how else to explain it. I'm not trying to sound like I'm taking shots at the guy. I feel like I'm kind of just speaking the truth. His teams get worse as the season goes on. His teams, unless Jordan Travis is the quarterback, don't handle success all that well. They just don't. They don't meet the moment. They don't meet the challenge of expectations. They just don't. So they don't handle failure well or success. It's a double whammy, Aslan.
It is.
It's a double whammy because they will straight throw in a losing streak, like it's his job, like he's getting incentive-based contract on losing streaks because he does that all the time. So they don't handle failure well because they never respond to a loss with a win. But then I saw a stat too. It was like Lane Kiffin. They showed a stat during the Oklahoma game, and I'm not the world's biggest Lane Kiffin fan, but I can obviously admit that he's a very good football coach. His teams were 7-0 in their last 7 games coming off a loss. That says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, man.
Because what is Mike Norvell's record? The last 7 games coming off a loss. I'm assuming 0-7. They don't win. They do not respond to failure well, and as I just alluded to, they don't respond to success well. So his teams just I don't know why they look so unconfident once they have some expectations. Why they play so tentative once they almost beat Notre Dame, or they beat LSU, or they beat Alabama, and then the next time they're in a close game, it looks like they just play tentative and not well. They don't play situations well. All that eventually falls at the feet of the head coach.
Fuffnut 911. I miss winning. Amen. Last question of the day. Island Chief. Wake up. Sometimes I think I just root for guys like Mike Norvell to succeed, that I am able to ignore shortcomings that they may have. In 2023, that was the epitome of what his teams would look like. Self-motivated players who were brought in to the climb. In an emerging era free agency for players, he seemed to manage it better than most. His offense seemed efficient. Coming out of the end of 2022, the defense played better as the season went on. This was the formula. Norvell, the chemist. But since the snub, Mike isn't Walter White, and this ain't the blue. My question, I feel like some of this was maybe kind of almost a can of worms was almost open on Monday. But Island Chief says, my question, losing exposes weak links. Do you sense any animosity in the ranks of the coaching staff? Because then there's once or twice when Mike was just talking about, there's disagreements between coaches and players. And he's like, coaches and coaches. And I was like, there's a little extra flair in the coaches on coaches thing. But, other than what, I haven't been able to, put my ear to the ground and hear anything about stuff that's going on in meeting rooms. But obviously we've seen, Mike and Terrence Knighton, I think, had a little bit of a verbal disagreement that was a little bit animated during the Pitt game. And then he might have also reacted in a similar way once Edwin Joseph jumped off sides. But do you sense any animosity in the ranks of the coaching staff?
It's hard to know, right? Since I'm not there, so it's just what we see on the sidelines. We don't get to watch practice. By the way, thank God they kept us from watching practice, right, gang? This season would be off the rails if we were still allowed to watch this team practice. That was clearly the biggest difference maker.
There's a couple people that are like, you guys are just bitter because he froze you out of practice, and that's why you're turning on him. And it's like, man,
no chance. I didn't watch a single second of the 2013 team practice. Do you think I turned on Jimbo because of it? No. I cared about what happened on Saturdays. And what's happening on Saturdays in Tallahassee isn't good enough. I was just making fun of the people that were a few of them were very vocal after the Alabama game. See? This is why he doesn't want y'all at practice. It's like, okay, man, I don't care. I get to wake up much later now. It's awesome, truly. But it has no bearing at all, whether the media watches practice or not. His team went 13-0 with us standing there in the baseball stadium watching them practice every Tuesday and Wednesday. His team went 2-10 with the same people standing in the same spots in the baseball stadium. It has no factor.
Yep.
Just like this season is not factored one way or the other by us being there. At any rate, what was the question?
any animosity being sensed between the ranks.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be fair to me to say that. I think there's always some animosity and some. I mean, it's a bunch of. What are we going to say? There's 25 guys in that room when you think of all the quality control guys and the analysts. Yeah. And even if you're just doing the on-field guys, that's a lot of ego. It's a lot of male ego. A lot of football player male ego. So there's always going to be disagreements. There's always going to be some verbal altercations. It's part of the sport. That's not uncommon at all. Trust me, Jimbo, the greatest team of all time in Florida State history, that coaching staff wasn't always just putting their arms around each other and walking off the practice field. There was some animosity there at times too, but you got to respect who you're working with. And more importantly, and again, this is not even speculation because I'm not saying it applies to this situation at all, but I'm not saying it doesn't. You've got to respect who you work for. And I don't. How would we know?
Yeah.
How would we know? Like, there's a bunch of guys that have only been here for a year, and they do not owe Mike Norvell their career. Adam Fuller owed Mike Norvell his career because he was languishing. That's unfair. He was coaching at Marshall or wherever he was before Norvell hired him. 3 years later, he's coaching at Florida State. He's coaching Jared Verse. He probably wouldn't have been able to do that at Marshall. Yeah. So he owed Mike Norvell that. Alex Atkins was coaching in a ACC championship game that he probably wasn't going to get to as the offensive line coach at Charlotte. So I think you had guys that felt maybe a little more beholden and maybe a little more respectful to Mike Norvell. But that's the deal, man. That's the job. You're not going to just have your guys with you the whole time. You've got to be a good enough head coach with a strong enough resume and a strong enough presence and personality, which I do think Norvell has, and gravitas, which I don't know that he has. But the presence, I think he does. I mean, he's not a pushover by any means. He'd call out Odell his first year as the head coach. Odell, of all people. Like, he's not going to mince words. He's not a pushover. But I don't know that there's necessarily it's not maybe, let's just say, a Kirby Smart level of respect. Yeah. Because that's earned. That's just earned. And how can you earn that when you just went 2-10? Like, a lot of these guys come in thinking they're trying to save your job because you screwed up so bad last year. I'm here to save the day. And that's a different dynamic, clearly. The Gus Malzahn, Mike Norvell dynamic is a wee bit different than the Alex Atkins, Mike Norvell dynamic. Same with Tony White and Adam Fuller.
Well said. That's a way to punctuate a good show. Good stuff, Corey.
Oh, all right. Thanks, Aslan. I don't know. That all might be poppycock.
No, I mean,
I'm just theorizing. I'm just trying to theorize a little bit.
I've said it till I've been blue in the face, and people are probably sick of me bringing it up. But like, I remember when Mike got hired, somebody posted again like a speech that he made before a whole bunch of coaches at a convention, and I was like, man, that doesn't strike to me as like an inspirational voice inside of a locker room of a bunch of dogs, right? Like, dogs like to follow other dogs. But then again, like when guys like Jared Verse and Jarian Jones like swear by, I mean, those are legit alpha dudes. Like those, and it goes back to, again, another thing I point out that, Ira's pointed out several times, like, on car rides and on headlines and, things, his writings is just like, players love coaches that help them, get to their destination, right? Like all those guys that played under Jimbo mostly loved him because like he got them to the NFL and made them millionaires, right? Like, there's some guys that maybe aren't on the Jimbo wagon because maybe they didn't get to live up to it. But a lot of you'll see a lot of these ex players like saying, "Hey, what about Jimbo?" And it's like, well, because I get it, but yeah, that I'll just never understand how he was able to resonate with like legit dudes like Keon Coleman. Like Keon Coleman's not somebody that's going to follow like a goofy dude. I don't think he would, like, but they all did, and then. Seemingly once
but
they
you
all
also
left,
wonder, don't you also wonder when it comes to those players you mentioned particularly, like how much of that was the Jordan Travis effect too?
Man.
Because Jordan Travis was a real leader, and I don't mean like a Jameis leader where he was given pregame speeches for 10 minutes or anything, but they respected the hell out of that guy. And if that guy signed off on Mike Norvell, then they're down with Mike Norvell because they're down with Jordan Travis.
Good point.
There has not been that conduit between Mike Norvell and the players as much since then. Also, if we just strip it down to the bare minimum, Aslan, they don't have any Jared Verse or Keon Coleman's.
Yeah.
Like, go get better players, and that leadership void, if there is one, disappears because they're better players. And the margin for error gets a whole lot wider if you get better players. And when we come back real quick before we end the show, because I do think it's something we need to talk about because of LSU, maybe not this show, but the next show, is like, well, who do you want to get? Who do you want to get? Like, I like the idea of James Franklin because I know he can identify talent, and I know he knows how to coach great players and get them on campus. But he's not a guarantee either. I want somebody that can go get me really good players. But if you decide to really pony up for the financial standpoint, then maybe James Franklin isn't that much of a slam dunk because the money itself, if you just get a solid coach with a great spending salary, a great salary cap, then that would be as good as getting James Franklin with a little bit less of a salary. I don't know how any of this stuff works because it still seems, again, so fluid. Like, we don't know if there's really going to be a hard cap in place for these schools to only spend $20 million on their athletes, period. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen, but we'll see. But if it does, then that's where I want a James Franklin. Because I know he can go identify and get, not just say that guy's a really good player, but get him to his program. He's done that at a remarkable level. And I just want better football players at Florida State. That's what I want. The coaching, that's fine. I think there's a lot of really good X's and O's guys out there you could go get. But if they don't have great players, it's not going to matter.
No.
Florida State, for far too long now, has been operating with not great high school recruits. Decent guys. Some guys made the league, but overall they are not killing it and have not been killing it since, I would guess, 2015 when it comes to great high school recruiting classes. No. And I would like that to change because that's how you win a bunch of football games over an extended period of time.
Yeah, sounds weird to say that I'm nervous about Lane. It would take an incredible financial investment to get Lane Kiffin here. And then, Ole Miss, there is pressure to win there, but there's a different weight at Ohio State and Florida State and Texas. There just is, man. There's a different level of weight. And listen, does he realize he's on the cusp? He's on the precipice of being able to win a national title, and he thinks, like, if I'm in the state of Florida, I can do it. If I'm in the ACC, maybe I'm not going to get as beat up over the course of 12 games.
Yeah, well, that's your selling point, honestly, is like, man, look at the schedule you're playing this year. And then you got to go win playoff games.
Yeah.
Now look at the schedule Florida State played. You think you could handle Virginia on a Friday night? Lane, please.
Yeah, Pitt
could
and
you
a true
get your
freshman
team ready
quarterback?
to? Could you beat Pitt? By the way,
can you outscore? It might be good. Mason Heinschel.
I was going to say they put up 53. Pitt put up 53 on NC State. The kid that kid's the real deal. Really good, and that team is a different team, of course. Since they benched Holstein, all of a sudden Pitt looks like one of the best teams in the country again. Awesome. Great. Florida State got them at the perfect time. But, yeah, I think that would be a selling point for someone like Lane, or if you're just bidding against LSU for Franklin. And, again, this is just pipe dream stuff. I don't know if any of this stuff is even realistic. But I'm saying if you put yourself in James Franklin's shoes, if the money is close to even, man, you're getting paid by Penn State anyway, what's your best shot to win big? At LSU, where now three of their last four coaches have won national championships. All four coaches have been fired. So,
and there's a lot of big games. There's a lot of big games when you're at LSU too, right? Like, you got Florida and Miami and Clemson.
That's right. That's right. You don't have to follow up a win against. I don't know who LSU played 2 weeks ago. Oh, who the heck?
Vandy. They lost to Vandy 2 weeks ago.
LSU did?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they have to come home after. And Vandy's a decent team, clearly. And after losing at Vandy, you get to come home and play the number 3 team in the country. Awesome.
Don't got to worry about that here. Ain't got to worry about that here.
Yeah, you're not worried about having to play, the number 6 team in the country, followed by on the road at number 13, then back home versus number 2. That ain't happening in the ACC. So if James Franklin, if the money's close to even, and you're in the state of Florida, now Louisiana's loaded too, and you're the only school in the state, so that helps. I think recruiting is kind of a wash when both schools are at their peak. Florida State can recruit with LSU. That's been proven. when they're at their peak powers and they have a coach that can do it. And there's more talent in the state of Florida because there's a lot more people in the state of Florida. And it's an easier road to hoe in the ACC than it is in the SEC. So those are all selling points. But, I don't know why Lane Kiffin, I don't know why he'd leave one SEC school for another one.
Right.
Doesn't make sense to me. Like he's already, what are they ranked right now? They're 7th?
Something like that.
5th? Like, they're going to the playoff if they don't stub their toe. Like, so what does he need Florida for? Right. To get to the playoff?
Yeah, they're 7th.
Like he just got to the playoff in the same conference. I would think you could sell, though, like, man, you wouldn't be beat up as much in the ACC. You got a few more gimmies. Now, don't judge Mike Norvell on what gimmies are and aren't. With Lane Kiffin as the coach, they're going to be given. This is me, Michael Alford, selling Lane Kiffin on the prospect of Florida State. Get a good coach in here. You're not losing to Pitt. You're certainly not losing to Stanford. They could have played that at 3:30 in the morning. I know my man Lane. I know you, dog. You're going to win that game by 4 touchdowns. That's how I talk when I'm trying to hire someone.
Yeah,
just
right.
throwing it out there. So it's going to be fascinating, man, what avenue they decide to take. And I guess there is still a percentage possibility that they keep the current guy. That would be a mistake. That also might not even be in play when we reconvene for Monday's show, depending on how Saturday night goes. There was a Wake Forest game played on a Saturday night in Doak that changed a lot of things because it went so poorly. That could happen again this Saturday night too. Or they could win, which is what I'm hoping for.
Maybe we tell Jake Dickert to stick around if Wake Forest wins. Again, I just don't. Again,
you're a big Jake Dicker fan.
Yeah, Ira and I are kind of driving the bandwagon.
Where did he come from?
He was at Washington State last year.
They were good, right?
They were okay.
Pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah. He had Cam Ward for a year. He's identified 2 really good offensive coordinators, like Eric Morris, who's now the head coach at North Texas, and then Ben Arbuckle, who's the OC that took that quarterback Mateer from Washington State to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
He's been he was on the North Dakota State staff when they won their first national title, like in 2010. I like that, and I get it, man. Like it's Wake Forest, but it's like, yeah, man. Like year one, he's already got them. They've already eclipsed their win total from the last 2 years in year one with him, and he's got Robbie Ashford as his quarterback. Like,
yeah,
exactly. Better here, and then I know it's not a sexy pick at all, but like Willie Fritz, I keep saying that name. He might be humble Kirk Cignetti. They have a very similar kind of coaching background. By
the way, it is not normal what Indiana is doing to these teams, folks. They are beating the bejesus out of them. This isn't what college football is supposed to be. I get they're supposed to beat UCLA and they're supposed to beat Illinois, but they beat them like Florida State in the 90s. This is crazy what they're doing. Anyway, yeah, give me a humble Kurt Cignetti. But when you hire somebody like a Willie Fritz,
and I get it, man. Another G5 AAC guy. Tom Herman was that. Scott Frost was that. Willie Taggart was that. Mike Norvell was that. I get it.
It's a tough sell. You've got to make sure you've got the roster allocation funds. Because I definitely think he can coach. Clearly,
that's why I say I think he signed like a 4-year, like $20 million contract. So it ends like he has like $1 million buyout from whoever gets him next. So it's like that could probably be, you could beat that, and you could afford to pay the $1 million to get him loose from that contract. And
here's the other thing.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and he's also like super, super admired within like the coaching fraternity, which is like I don't know, just something about like everybody like loves that guy. Anytime there's a big win, like all these high school coaches I know, they're retweeting other college coaches and like they're excited for him. So he's got some kind of good energy around that we could clearly use. But
I was going to say, I saw on Twitter, I can't remember who posted it. Oh, it might have been Andy Staples, On3's own Andy Staples. He contends that the 3 best coaches in the United States right now, and I don't know that you could argue, are Ryan Day at Ohio State, Kirby Smart at Georgia, and Dan Lanning at Oregon. All of them were coordinators when they were hired for their first head coaching jobs at those schools. So go get yourself a really good coordinator that has been in this before. That you have is just as much success or chance of success, it would appear, as going and getting a head coach from a lower level. Right. Go get you an OC from a big boy program that's had a lot of success, or a DC that you believe is ready to be a head coach. That's always the option. Ohio State, it was good enough for Ohio State. is good enough for Georgia. It was good enough for Oregon. And they're all doing pretty well.
Well said. Maybe you're the winner of generating discussion, Corey. That was like another 10 minutes of
Sorry, that's on me.
No, it's fine. It was good. I think people like that. They're like, yeah, people want to hear names. They want to hear names, man. Like they want to hear names. So we just gave you a bunch. Hope you enjoyed some of it. Hope you enjoyed some of the show, too. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind. Tell a friend. Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to warchant.com. Check out vitaminenergy.com. warchantbogo, the promo code. He's Corey Maslon. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.